Hi, guys. It's Kelsey. Welcome back. And I'm joined again by my friend Kat. And we're here to talk about holiday horror. By the way, this is take two because we just had a whole convo on Zoom and we were not recording. All these great tidbits, all these great horror nuggets lost to the internets, just gone. I'm totally discombobulated now. I don't know if that's the right. It just so anyway, guys, it'll be new for you, but for me and Kat, this is kind of like
It
we're
was a
reliving.
rehearsal.
Yeah, this is like a time warp for us. So today we're talking about some horror movies like April Fool's Day, Dead Snow, Night of the Lepus, Rotten Tail, Mother's Day, The Evil in Us, Soul Thieves, Memorial Day. These are all holiday themed movies, and what they have in common is they're all not Christmas and they're not Halloween. So we were concentrated on holiday horror that was not those two holidays, but we had lots of other holidays to concentrate on. So we're really excited to review and analyze and give a little bit of tidbits about those movies I just listed. Before we do that, I want to remind you guys that this is actually our third holiday horror chat. We're doing a whole little series about this. So our first one, we reviewed the anthology movie Holidays. Now that did have a section about Halloween and Christmas, but because it didn't focus primarily on that, we said, okay, that's okay. We'll still watch it. And we had a good time talking about it. So check it out. I'll link it right up here. If you're interested, go and watch that video. I had a good time. I think that's a really fun movie. So I hope you guys check that out. Our other that we did about holiday horror movies was all about a whole bunch of movies, including Terror Train, My Bloody Valentine, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, Fat Tuesday, Candyman 2, Leprechaun in the Hood, and The Happening. Spoiler alert, Leprechaun in the Hood, Kat didn't like very much. I'll link that up here because we had some fun discussions about Leprechaun and Leprechaun in the Hood. And also another spoiler, we're talking about another movie that we both didn't like today in this chat. We're going to get there when we get there, but I can't wait for you guys to hear our thoughts because we've already talked about it once. And trust me, it was fun. So we're going to talk about it for reals this time, recording, and we'll get there in a second. But let's get into it, and we'll start off with April Fool's Day. I love that movie. It's from 1986. Really well done. And the premise is 9 college students staying at a friend's remote island mansion begin to fall victim to an unseen murderer over the April Fool's Day weekend, but nothing is as it seems. What'd you think of it, Kat?
I loved it. It was one of my favorites in our holiday movies that we've selected. Um, it, of course, it's April Fool's Day. You're expecting pranks. The pranks start off pretty mild, and then they start ramping up. They get a little more personal depending on who the character is. And there's an underlying mystery, which unbeknownst to me at the time when I was watching it, but when I was doing some more research on it, it's loosely based on Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, which is also known as 10 Little Indians. So it's a little bit different than your traditional horror movie because you actually have a little mystery that's going on. You just knew something was a little bit off, and it was wonderful to stick with it all the way through to the end. It was a very satisfying ending. Definitely one of my favorites for this marathon.
I loved it. I definitely give it 2 thumbs up. I think I loved, not only was there a mystery, and not only does it take place over April Fool's Day weekend, I like how they incorporated April Fool's Day's pranks into the movie as well, because I think that added a lot to it. It really kind of made it more than just, oh, it takes place on this day or this weekend. It gave it like some other kind of thematic element to it. And they really had fun with it. And it kind of created some jump scares and just some cool moments on camera too.
Right. There was like a lot of unexpected things that took place in it. And I don't know. I just think it was really well done, really well done. And part of it was, I think, because of the cast. The cast actually got together and stayed in a hotel in Vancouver. And it was for them to be able to get used to being around each other, hanging out, developing relationships with one another so that when they actually shot the movie, they look like they had been friends for a long time. And you can really tell the chemistry between all of the characters, and they look like they were friends that just
Yeah.
got together to shoot this movie, together. So I think the rapport between them actually made a big difference for it.
I really could tell too that they had a lot of chemistry that came across. I think as an audience member viewing at home, it just translated from the screen to your viewing experience. And also, I just think it's such a great movie. I know a lot of people like it and actually think of it as like a cult favorite because it was shown on TV a lot, apparently, I read, because it didn't have a lot of gore. And that is apparent. Like
Mhm.
when you go through it, it's not like the most bloody or violent horror movie from the 80s, but I still nonetheless loved it. And I think it makes sense that so many people have seen it because it was shown on TV so much because they didn't have to censor it very much.
Mhm.
So that's why it was just shown so often and people actually got to see it a lot. And so that's why people grew up or just remember from back in the day seeing it a lot, just, flipping channels.
Mhm.
So that's kind of a cool
Well,
little tidbit.
and the thing is, going back to the cast, because I always like to talk about the actors since I'm an actor myself. I think they did a really fine job, casting who was in the movie. And some of the people in here you may recognize. I mean, at least I did from, and I know this is probably one of their first movies, but Deborah Foreman, who plays the Buffy Muffy character, she actually was in a film with Nick Cage called Valley Girl, 1983, and that kind of put her on the map. She played the part of Julie Richmond, and she did pretty well in the beginning. Then her career kind of petered out. She retired in like 2007, and I believe she's a yoga instructor now.
That's
Which is
quite
kind
the
of funny.
difference.
Right. Amy Steele plays Kit Graham, and she also starred as Jenny in Friday the 13th Part 2, and did a bunch of other movies as well. She's 60 now, and she's no longer acting. She is a marriage and family therapist. That's
Oh,
what her career is.
all
And then
these people
Thomas,
retiring. That's
yes, they
crazy.
retired, but the next three that I'm going to mention are all still working actors. Thomas F. Wilson, to me, is recognizable if you've seen the Back to the Future movies.
Oh,
He
yeah.
played Biff. He is actually an actor, artist, comedian, and writer, and is still acting today. Clayton Roner plays Chaz. He is an actor that is still acting. And something to note on this, he actually played Detective Hollingsworth in the 1997 movie called Relic, which is based on the book that you and I want to read eventually with our book club that we
Oh,
started.
cool.
So I thought that was pretty cool. And then another little tie-in is Ken Olant. He plays Rob. He's still an actor, still acting. He also owns a production company. He had a role as Nathan in Leprechaun, which you happened to watch for the holiday marathon. And I believe he plays Jennifer Aniston's boyfriend,
I
if I'm
did
not
not
mistaken.
even recognize him. Like I didn't, even though I watched the movies, these two, Leprechaun and April Fool's Day, like literally 3-4 weeks apart, I did not recognize him.
Well, I just thought that was kind of neat that we've had some actors cross over in other, either movies or in book, something that we're connected in what we're doing otherwise. But he also has appeared in Star Trek, which I thought was kind of interesting as well. But I think the cast was, whoever did the cast and did a fine job. In fact, Ryan O'Neal's son is also in the movie. So kudos to them for picking a good cast, for writing a good screenplay, and overall, very satisfying movie.
Yeah, I love this movie, but apparently it's not the only April Fool's Day movie released in 1986. There's two others I read on IMDb. So the other two are Killer Party and Slaughter High. So we could maybe watch those next time we do this marathon, but I will say I highly doubt it's going to be as good as
Mm.
this movie. This movie was so great, had a lot of, surprises, a lot of cool stuff that developed, and it just kept you guessing. I loved it, and
Mhm.
I just can't even imagine. I mean, I'll watch the other ones. I just can't even fathom it being close to this one. And I could see why so many people like it. And I'm so glad I finally got to seeing it because it's
Mhm.
surprising that it was my first time viewing it.
Mhm.
So that was a lot of fun. I think we kicked off that section of the marathon on a high note. So now we're going to move on to like the Easter type of movies. And I have two that I watched that you did not watch, but I'll quickly kind of give some facts about them. So the first one I watched, but you have seen, you just didn't watch it for
Mhm.
this marathon, is Dead Snow from 2009. And I thought this was a great movie. It's kind of like a zombie movie. And the premise is a ski vacation turns horrific for a group of medical students as they find themselves confronted by an unimaginable menace. Nazi zombies. So I think that's so weird of a premise, but somehow it works. And you might be wondering, how the hell do zombie Nazis have to do with this plot? Like, what is the point? How are they involved? Well, that's kind of explained why they're there in a way. But really, I just think it was a really well done homage to other horror movies, especially like 80s type of
Mhm.
gory horror movies, like especially Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Just gave me a total Evil Dead vibe, especially because a character basically chainsaws off his hand. He cuts it off with a chainsaw, just like Evil Dead. So Evil Dead. I just thought this was so well executed, and the blood looks so vivid and colorful against the snow. What a great backdrop for a horror movie,
Mhm.
because there are a couple of horror movies that are set in winter environments, but not too many. And I like this one because it's super bloody, so it just creates that
Mhm.
contrast, and you're like, whoa, as the viewer at home, you're like, this is crazy. And I will say, so it got a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes. It got a 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, but 87% of Google users liked it. So overall, people liked it. I liked it.
Mhm.
And I didn't know this, but there is a reference. They kill somebody, they kill a character in the same exact way as a character was killed in Dead Alive. So not only was it paying homage to Evil Dead, apparently I didn't like realize it at the time, but after I read that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. It paid homage to Dead Alive too. So that's kind of neat. I will say the one weird thing is this girl comes and sleeps with this guy right after he's using the bathroom in like an outhouse. There's no matches being used or anything. Like, what is she thinking? I don't know if it's a foreign thing because this was a foreign movie. It had subtitles, but I don't think so. I just think it was a weird thing thrown in the movie. Like, if it was me, I'd be like, dude, light a match. I don't know. Like, what's going on? This is so weird. Like, he's like not even done. He's just in there. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. My boyfriend Paul was watching with me, and he also thought that was strange and also
Mhm.
funny. But yeah,
Mhm.
overall, the gore was great.
Well, and also we must mention how awesome the zombies look.
Yes.
The makeup, I think, is phenomenal.
I mean, I
Um,
mean, you can't even tell they're wearing makeup. It just looks like you're
mhm.
seeing a real life zombie if zombies were real. And
Mhm.
I even said to you the first time we recorded this that it was totally Walking Dead level.
Yes.
It was really well done, like very,
Mhm.
very high quality. Like, I don't know. I didn't look up the budget. I wish I would have because it would have been interesting to see how big of a budget they had. If this
Mhm.
was a smaller budget, it didn't seem like it in the zombie
Mm-mm.
effects or the zombie makeup because that was really well done.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I just, it was an intense movie. I remember it being an intense movie. And I had chosen it because it was on list for best zombie movies at the time that I had done another zombie marathon. So, I mean, I would highly recommend it for anybody who wants a little bit different take on a zombie movie, than your traditional one that happens like in a graveyard or whatever. Because really what's kind of ironic is, they say that if you go up north, you have a better chance of surviving a zombie apocalypse because it's cold. So they're just going to freeze in place. Well,
Right. Not
not.
here. No. And I will say, like, I really love this movie, and I'm not a huge zombie person, but this one was great. I could have saved it because we're going to have a zombie marathon, you and me, coming up in May.
Mhm.
And so I could have saved it for then, but I'm actually glad I watched it because the whole reason it relates to holidays is because it takes place during an Easter weekend. They're like on an
Mhm.
Easter ski trip type of thing. Although they don't ski, by the way. They kind of go snowmobiling and like sledding and stuff like that. So the skiing would be another scary factor because I skied recently this year and it was scary as hell. I was like, oh my God. So that's a different kind of scary, but scary nonetheless if you're bad at skiing. So no skiing in the movie, even though it describes them as like a ski vacation, but it's a snow vacation on Easter weekend essentially. But who doesn't love to see some zombie Nazis get killed? I mean, you want to see like regular zombies getting killed, but when you throw in like the Nazi element, like you really want to see them get killed. So that was a nice little touch there. Definitely different take on stuff, and overall definite thumbs up. I'm with Kat. I recommend it. And now comes my second Easter film that I watched that Kat did not watch, Night of the Lepus. And this one's from 1972. I wish Kat would have watched this because it sure beats Rotten Tail. And this is a big spoiler because we'll get into Rotten Tail in a second. Rotten Tail is just like, oh my God, I want to claw my eyes out. It's so bad. But Night of the Lepus was bad in a different way. In a more like fun Troll 2 level type of way, where it's like it doesn't mean to be bad, but it is, and it's glorious that it is. It's okay that it is. So the premise of Night of the Lepus is giant mutant rabbits terrorize the Southwest, and the tagline is, they were born that tragic moment when science made its great mistake. Now from behind the shroud of night they come, a scuttling, shambling horde of creatures destroying all in their path. So I think that's a great tagline. When you're watching it, just like I've got this clip here I'm going to play for you guys in a second. It's this little girl screaming, and then they show up the close up of these bunnies, like with their mouths like moving around and all trying to be all scary, but it's not. So here it is. Take a look at these creepy bunnies right here. All right, so as you can see from that clip, total absurdity, total hilarious type of scenes, and the acting's a little goofy, but I will say one great actress was in the movie, Janet Leigh. And of course, that is, Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, and she's a star in her own right since she was in Psycho and a whole bunch of other great movies. She even starred with Jamie Lee Curtis in The Fog. But I would say that this movie is totally not up to those caliber of movies. Like, it's not the same level at all, but still it's a great time. I gotta say, I would recommend it because I laugh so hard. There's these parts where the rabbits are like stampeding and they're supposed to look giant, but it just doesn't work. And they also recycle like the same shots over and over again. So like you'll see this one shot of the stampede like over and over again, and it's like slow mode and they're like stampeding. So wonderful. Also, by the way, 8% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is crazy. It's so low.
That is crazy.
It's even crazier because this is a spoiler, but we're about to get there. Rotten Tail has a better rating, which I cannot even.
Unbelievable.
I know. I cannot even fathom it. It's crazy. But yeah, to me, it is. I understand the low rating, but I just think it was so much fun. So even though it, critically, yes, it's bad, but like overall though, it's so much fun. How can you really hate on it? Like really? Deep down. But Shout Factory gave it a 4 out of 5. IMDb gave it a 4.2 out of 10, but 81% of Google users liked it. So that tells me that the audience does think it's kind of like a fun cult classic type of film. And again, I loved it. By the way, posters and trailers of the movie had no mention or showed no shots of bunnies because they didn't want to kind of reveal that it was about killer bunnies, thinking that it would turn off people from watching it or going to see it. Alas, it still didn't succeed, even though they kept the bunnies out of the trailer. It didn't make a difference, apparently. People still thought it was bad, or critics at least. And also, here's some fun little tidbits. The original title was Rabbits, but MGM thought that it didn't fit a horror movie, which I could see that totally makes sense because when you think of rabbits, you just don't think of like scary creatures at all. So I think people would take their kids to it and they'd be like, wait, this is a horror movie? But again, there's not like a lot of terrible gore or any kind of, bad, crazy stuff in it. It's rated PG actually. And there are scenes where there are rabbits shown roaring and they have these like sound effects where it's like, rah, but it's really just them yawning, I read, which is kind of cute. That they weren't even roaring. They were yawning. Kind of hard to be scared at little yawning rabbits, and also for blood, they used ketchup on the rabbit's face I think that's so funny, and like it wasn't very believable. I'll say that.
Well, definitely low budget.
Yeah. I mean, I know I didn't look up the budget, but it can't have been super big budget because Paul made a comment. He said there's this helicopter flying around all in the movie. He really thought that they would have a rabbit jump out of like off the ground into the air and like crash the helicopter. Spoiler, it doesn't happen. So I guess the budget wasn't big enough to have a rabbit come out of the air and go and like crash the copter. So yeah, it must not have had a very big budget. Plus the ketchup, like we said. And by the way, if you're wondering what the heck does lepus mean, Night of the Lepus, what's that? Well, apparently lepus is the Latin term for hare or, rabbit, Hare, that type of hair, not this type of hair. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. And by the way, if you're wondering, there is another movie with a killer rabbit, and it's a comedy movie, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, but that was released after this movie. So although it was funnier, and it was meant to be funny, it wasn't on accident, but that featured a killer rabbit, and that was released in 1975, whereas this was released in 1972. So lots of fun. Two little rabbit paws up in terms of like so bad it's good. Oh, I love it. I definitely recommend it. I hope we get to watch it next year because you would have liked it more than Rotten Tail, 100%.
I think I would like anything better than Rotten Tail. Look, I think I like Leprechaun in the Hood better than Rotten Tail.
Yeah, that's saying something because if you guys saw the chat, she hated Leprechaun in the Hood. She's like, oh my God, I hated it.
I had to scrub my eyeballs from after watching Leprechaun in the Hood. I had to scrub my eyeballs twice after watching Rotten Tail.
So double the scrubbing.
Right.
Your eyes are like really clean now. At least.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I will say, like, so now that we can get into Rotten Tail, oh my God, what was this movie? To me, it was like total shock value. I like bad movies, and I like movies sometimes that go over the top, but I don't like when it like tries too hard. And it's just so obvious that it is trying so painfully hard. And that's what this was like for me. So basically, it was released in 2018 to give you a background of it. And the premise is Peter Cotton, Peter Cottontail, get it? So Peter Cotton is a scientist, and he works on rabbits and infertility. And he learns that the military wishes to use his work to create a superhuman soldier, like rabbit soldiers. Cotton is bitten by an experimental mutant rabbit, and then he changes into an evil, like human rabbit guy named Rottentail. And I gotta say, all of this plot here is not really explained very well, because I didn't even really understand the infertility part. It jumps around. It's not completely in sequence. It's just, I didn't even really understand how he got bit, because one second you see somebody get bit, but I didn't think it was him. Then they flash to him being Rottentail, looking back at his high school years. Then they flash to him, he's a regular human, but he got bit and he's in his room crying with like an injured hand. What is going on? So much weird stuff happens in this movie. I can't even go into all of it.
Well, I knew we were in trouble when it first started.
Yeah.
And the bunny dealer and the security guard have this long stare. Like, it is so long and it is so like strange. And they're like having like a stare off. And then they're just like trash talking each other with their, giving each other the bird and all kinds of other stuff. It's just the most bizarre beginning of a movie, so you're like, what the heck is going on here already?
Nothing is explained about like why these guys don't like each other. All of this, it's just so random. It's just thrown in there, and it's never revisited, like why they have animosity, who these guards are. It's not important. It's never revisited. It doesn't make any sense. By the way, let's get to the biggest crazy part of the movie, no pun intended, flipping boners. This one general, he's obsessed with his penis, and like this is the part where I'm saying it tries like so insanely hard that, again, no pun intended, it's just so over the top and gross. And it's like, oh my gosh, there's this whole scene. And you warned me about it, but I just didn't know it'd be so over the top.
Well, another thing about it's very disjointed, and it's like different little subplots are happening with whatever the main plot's supposed to be. I don't really even know the main plot. We probably would have understood the movie maybe a little better had we read the graphic novel that this movie is based on, which was written by David C. Hayes and Kevin Moyers. But We did not, because we didn't realize that it was a graphic novel. But this General Phelps, I mean, it's like he's in control, and he decides, I'm going to steal Peter's experimental drug that he's working on, and I'm just going to drink it, and I'm going to have a night with my lady. And I don't know. When I saw this, his boner thing, even though it was in silhouette, and then it wasn't just once, it was
No.
twice. And then please share with our audience what
So,
Rotten Tail does to him with his boner.
Rotten Tail literally like basically murders him by like grabbing his boner and like tossing him around by his boner. It's so absurd. And he's like making puns when he's kind of doing it. He's like, making jokes when he's tossing him around by the boner, flinging him around by the penis. I don't know how you want to say it, but either way, you word it. He's basically getting killed by like having his penis tossed around. I mean, he is being tossed very forcefully into like walls and stuff, so his head is getting hurt as well. But it just, I'm trying to like.
Yeah, but he could have grabbed him by the arm. He didn't have to
Yes,
grab
yes.
him by that.
I'm trying to like make sense of a nonsensical part of the movie somehow. I don't know why I'm trying to give sense.
And what's
of
so
it.
crazy is whatever Peter is in his life, like it's almost like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde kind of thing. He's like this normal nerdy dude who's trying to work at this facility and come up with this experimental drug or whatever. And then it's like he transforms into the Rotten Tail, and every bad thing that you possibly could do, every vice that you could have, Rotten Tail embodies every bad vice. And he talks like Beetlejuice, but 100 times worse. And it is a very grating voice the whole time when he's doing it, because not only is he talking and he's like saying all these things and he's making puns, and I don't know, it's absurd. It really is. It's supposed to be a comedy horror, but it is really absurd. And what's so surprising about this is IMDb gave it a 3.4 out of 10. Okay. 17% is what the critics gave them on Rotten Tomatoes. So it beat Night of the Lepus.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. The audience gave it, 93% of the audience loved this movie, which is unbelievable to me. And this was one of the quotes by Steve N. What a feast for the eyes. Funny, irreverent, and awesome. Sure to be a cult classic. Okay, that was a feast for his eyes. I had to scrub my eyes twice.
So I can understand why some people might like it, because I get cult appeal. Like, oh, it's so ridiculous. It's so absurd. It's so over the top. But again, if there was a story that was like a good narrative that I could actually follow and that was executed well, I think I would have liked it a lot more. I would still have been like kind of grossed out by the boner stuff, but I would have maybe laughed at it a little more had there been an actual story with substance, some kind of substance somewhere about the movie. So I understand cult appeal, but when there's like nothing else about it except for going over the top, to me, that's like, it's not enjoyable. If you're just going over the top to go over the top, but there's no other redeeming quality, then I'm like, nah, that ain't for me. Now, if you guys like it at home, all the more power to you. I don't want to offend you. I mean, it's all subjective. That's why, art is just a subjective thing. Movies are a subjective thing. Every medium of art is. And that's like the beauty of it. That's why it's so much fun to analyze things and hear other people's opinions on things. So if you liked it, please tell us below, comment why, and what things you liked about it, what things, if you didn't like it, like us, you could also comment what you didn't like about it. And I also will say, maybe perhaps the people who liked it so much from Rotten Tomatoes, maybe they read the graphic novel, and so perhaps it was explained more what the story was, and so they weren't looking for the story so much as more of an adaptation. Like, oh, how did they put it to screen? I already know the story. So maybe they weren't looking with a fine-tooth comb, like, oh, what does this mean? This makes no sense. This is totally like not very logical. It was jumping all over the place. It had nothing. I didn't even understand like the revenge plot line. It's like, this girl he used to like, she's dating this guy who was a bully and ended up killing Rottentail's old pet rabbit. And now the girl wants Rottentail to help, get revenge and prevent that guy, that bully who she was actually married to, from selling her church that was in her family. It's like, you see how convoluted that sounds? It makes no sense.
Well, that's why I said there was like different little subplots going on, trying to go into their own little, narrative. And then you've got the big narrative, and it didn't flow. It didn't flow. And then this General Phelps kept popping in and out, here and there. He's, you think he's killed, then he's a cyborg looking dude. Was he supposed to be one of these of the soldiers that was at the facility? I mean, who knows? It's just not very clear. But I will have to say there was an homage to an old TV show that I watched. So I did like this part of it. I thought it was kind of funny. There was a show called Alice years ago when I was growing up, and Linda Lavin played Alice, and she worked at a place called Mel's Diner. Well, there is a Mel's Diner that he eats at when he meets his girlfriend after not seeing her for many years. And the waitress happens to be Alice that takes their order.
So it's the same, it's the actual actress.
It's not the actual actress. It's just the
name.
The name is Alice, which I thought was kind of funny.
I'm
sure
cool.
Linda Lavin would not want to be associated with Rottentail.
So not only I'm sure, because not only are there penises and boners, shown in shadow, somebody getting tossed around by the boner, but also there is a whole part where the general is obsessed with his penis. He's telling the guy at the end, I guess his dick falls off, pardon my French. He's telling the guy go grab my dick. My dick, go grab my dick, it fell off, haha, go grab it. I get it, but it's so over the top, so too much. So not only was there dick humor and boner humor, because also we see Rottentail's dick in silhouette as well at one point, and they make a joke about it being small. Oh gosh, whatever. It's so ridiculous, and I say that word so much, but here it is warranted because it is literally ridiculous. Ridiculous, oh gosh. But it really is. Oh geez, that's a whole nother thing now. So, but also there's a lot of bathroom humor, there's farting humor. And you did laugh at one part, didn't you, Kat?
Yes, I did. I mean, he goes to the bathroom to finally, because he's having all this stomach cramps and everything, and he's passing the gas. Well, then he actually craps all these rabbit pellet turds.
And he looks at him and he's like, what the hell? Yeah, dude, you got problems. You got big problems here.
I'm I gave it a half star. I didn't want to give it any stars, but I said, let me give it a half star. But it was not my cup of tea. And I honestly didn't think I could watch anything worse than Leprechaun in the Hood. But I was mistaken.
You were so wrong. And you warned me too. You were texting me, I can't wait for you to watch it so we could talk about it. I'm sitting in there 5 minutes and I'm like, this is already weird with the looks. We talked about those weird looks with the security guard and the bunny
and then you texted about the pellets, and I'm like, just wait.
Then the boner
to the worst part.
She's like, you literally said, wait till you see the general and his wife. I'm like, okay. And then as soon as I got there, I knew exactly what you meant. I was like, oh God, this is it. And then it even got worse. I didn't even know. You didn't warn me about the boner flinging girl. It's so absurd.
Hey, I mean, kudos to us. We should have stars for at least sticking with the whole entire movie and not shutting it off.
Well, you know what was the best part of the movie for me?
Oh no.
Eating my peeps while I watched the movie. My Easter peeps, I was eating them as I was watching. That was the best part of the movie. So it was eating some awesome peeps while watching a terrible movie. So at least one of those things was good. I did have fun though, in a way, because us talking about it, I think, has been the fun part of it. So I'm kind of glad I watched it. I mean, I would like my time back, but it made up for it with this fun convo with you, just to laugh about how terrible it was and the whole boner thing. But would I watch it again, or would I recommend it? No. But if you guys are curious and you're, your whole curiosity is piqued because of this, maybe you should go watch it just to see for yourself. Because I would love to hear other people's opinions, as I said earlier. I would really love to
Yeah,
hear everyone else's thoughts.
I agree. Now, I do think it would have been fun if we could have watched it together.
Oh my God. Yeah, we would have looked at each other and been like, like, oh my God, what is this? And I just think it would have probably been like 10 times more fun. And I wouldn't have
Mhm.
regretted watching it as much if we would have watched it like in the same place together. So
Yeah.
so if you got a buddy and you guys are into like watching like bad movies, it might be something fun to watch together and just be like, "Oh God. Oh geez." Like that might be more fun for you guys.
But we warned you. That's
We
what we're
did.
saying right now. We did warn you.
Yes.
So you
Especially if you
cannot
don't like
hold us.
vulgarity, I would
Yeah,
pass it,
no.
pass. If you don't like vulgar stuff or sexual stuff, because there was a lot of sexual stuff, by the way. But also, I do want to tell people, if you do end up watching it and you haven't already seen it, make sure you stay for the credits, because Kat warned me about that.
Mhm.
There is some extra stuff. Let me just say, it's not really a spoiler to say, at one point there is a birth of a mutant bunny, and it's really gross and
Yeah.
really creepy and weird and just strange, and like it doesn't make any sense. And your
Mm-mm.
boy, your boy, the military man with the boner, he's in that scene too. But I don't think he has a boner in that scene. But I think he does mention his dick yet again. But I'm not sure. I mean, he mentions it so much, I kind of lost track. So whatever. Let's just say I would give that one 2 rabbit paws down. So 2 bad movies, but in different ways. One of them was fun, one of them not so much, with Rotten Tail. But
Exactly.
all right. So now that was our Easter wrap up. We had a lot of Easter talk there. But now let's move on into non-Easter. And this is a movie that you watched that I did
Mhm.
not watch. And it's for a holiday that I actually didn't even have represented. And it was the movie Soul Thieves. Take it away, Kat.
Yeah, Soul Thieves. And it's a Mexican film. In Spanish, it's Ladrones de Almas. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but it means soul thieves or also soul robbers. I've seen it two different places. I watched this movie to represent Cinco de Mayo, and takes place in 1815, during the Mexican War of Independence. It is a foreign film. There are subtitles, but just like Dead Snow, it didn't bother me to watch it. You still can follow along with the story and keep up with what they're saying. Um, it's basically about a group of insurgents who kind of leave their army in search of gold that they've heard about, or riches. And they come upon a village that has a nice type of house, and kind of like, I guess, what you would consider a mansion or whatever. And there is a gentleman there who is handicapped. He's in a wheelchair. He lives there with his 3 daughters and his hired help. It's a man and a woman, a married couple. And so the insurgents come upon them. At first, they welcome and say they can stay there or whatever, but really their intentions are to try to see if there is any hidden gold there. And prior to the insurgents coming, the family is had already been attacked by military, and the mother is killed, and the oldest daughter is taken away with the military people. So as a result, that army is attacked one evening by zombies.
Zombies, cool. So you did watch a zombie movie like me.
Yes, unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize it's actually zombies plus witchcraft, because the girls do practice witchcraft. And the reason why is because the zombies in this film are more Haitian zombies instead of your traditional George Romero. So you're thinking more like Serpent and the Rainbow type of zombie, as opposed to a Walking Dead zombie.
Right. And I
But
like
any
those actually. Those are really cool because it's just a different type of zombie. And I just watched, Serpent and the Rainbow, and I thought it was marvelous.
Mhm.
Such a different take on the zombie thing. I love that.
Well, it is, because it's the zombies are almost controllable. They're still dangerous, and they still want to eat you basically, but they're more controllable, so what ends up happening is the girl goes back with this zombie, and she actually makes the guy who kidnaps her, the military guy, her pet zombie. and he guards the gold. So even if the
Wow.
insurgents find it, they're going to have to go through a zombie to get it. So it's pretty I thought it was very interesting. I liked it. There's not much out there about it, and I guess because it is a foreign film. But 5 out of 10 on IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, 50% for audience, which I didn't think was too bad for a horror movie and being a foreign horror movie.
Right.
No critics had anything to say about it, but I mean, I personally would recommend it. I mean, I enjoyed it. I gave it 3 stars. So
I might add it to my list next year because I like different stuff. That seems like an interesting premise. And like you said, it's cool that like the zombie was guarding the gold. Like what a cool twist. Like that's such a cool element to it. So I'm glad you got to watch a zombie film, even though we're going to be watching lots more zombie films in May for Zombie Appreciation Month. I'm pretty pumped up because you've gotten me more into zombies a little bit, I gotta say. So I'm getting more and more into them. And I'm looking forward to our little list, but it's cool that we've kind of both kicked it off early with zombie movies in our holiday horror marathons. And we didn't even know. I mean, I knew about mine, but I didn't know that yours was a zombie movie.
Oh, it was unintentional. I didn't realize until I started watching it, and I'm like, "Ooh, we have some zombies in here." So,
well, it was a pleasant surprise then, though.
Yes.
Yeah, because you love zombies.
And I think that's probably why I enjoyed it, was because they did have zombies in it. I mean, it is probably my favorite, monster creature in the horror genre. So
I will say it is a pretty great monster. Like because when you think about zombies, they're pretty terrifying because it's believable that it could happen, and also it's so scary that they could turn you into them. It's just like the psychological aspect is just as bad as the actual like visual aspect of how gross and scary they look. There's like a whole psychological aspect to it too. Like I don't want to turn into one of those and like lead a life like that. Yeah. So yeah, I totally get it. Like I'm more into zombies now. All right, so now moving on to a different type of movie for a different holiday. We're going with Mother's Day. And Mother's Day was a pretty good movie. It was filmed in 2010, and the basic plot is the sadistic members of a villainous family return to their childhood home to terrorize the new homeowners and their guests. And I will say, I want to add to this because this synopsis is a little confusing. They don't just randomly go back to the house. They don't know that their family, that their mother has moved away from that house. So they go back there thinking they're going to find their mother, and instead the house has been sold and a new family lives there. And so once there, they need to find out they have been sending money there for the mother, but the money is nowhere to be found. So basically they think this new family is hiding the money. So that's a big part of the plot is that they don't just go there randomly. It's because they think the mom's there. So then they call the mom comes and meets them there and is like, I don't live here anymore. I couldn't contact you. And then all kinds of stuff. Basically, pardon my French, but shit hits the fan.
Right.
Yeah, from there. And I will say it was decent. The tagline is "Don't misbehave," because the mother, she's got a lot of rules, by the way. That's part of the story, is all of her rules, and her kids are psychos. She has raised them to be psychopaths. So take it away. What did you think of it?
Well, I enjoyed it. I really only had one complaint about the film, and it was that it had kind of like a Saw vibe to it. Well, it's because the director directed 4 of the Saw movies. I'm not a real big fan of the Saw movies just because it kind of falls into that category of like torture porn, Hostel, that kind of stuff. I don't really enjoy that type of horror, but it's kind of like that, pitting one person against the other person. These are good people, but once you pit them against each other in order to save yourself, it's kind of like you lose your humanity and you're going to do whatever it takes, regardless that it's your friend that you might end up having to harm or injure. And the other thing was, I found that in the beginning, I really did like, it started off really well. I mean, it had some really good momentum. I thought it went on a little bit long, towards the end. It was like almost like for like shock, not really shock value, that's the wrong word, but more like, let's see how many other things we can do to make this horrific, to this family kind of thing, because the mother is ruthless.
Yeah.
and she can be very brutal. I mean, she can be very polite and understanding and talks to you like she's like a soothing mother or whatever. But she really, when it comes down to it, she can be very brutal. She's controlling. She wants respect from her children. She has 3 sons, the one daughter. She has manipulated them and controlled them all this time, and they'll do
Yeah.
anything for her, to make sure that, she's not upset with them. But I do think overall the movie, I mean, I gave it 3 stars.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. And did you get the ratings on it?
I did. And I agree with your rating in terms of our personal ratings. I would say 3. I totally agree with your analysis of the length of the film. I will say, like, it felt so like not that it was bad, but it just felt so long. Like there was times I was checking the
Mhm.
timestamp and I'm like, we're only 40 minutes in, and there's still like another over an hour left. I just couldn't believe it at points. Like,
Mhm.
I don't know why that was. Maybe I was super conscious because I did watch it when I was kind of feeling sick. I don't know if it was because of that or if it just because maybe they drug out a little bit of the violence a little too much sometimes.
Mhm.
Not that that bothered me, but I haven't seen the Saw movies, but I did make a note that he did direct the Saw movies, but he also directed a segment from this anthology film called Tales of Halloween, which I did
Oh.
watch for October in 2020. And his
Mhm.
segment was called The Night Billy Raised Hell. And I think I remember mostly liking that one, but the ratings in terms of other people giving it ratings, 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 42% on Rotten Tomatoes, 34% on Metacritic, but 84% of Google
Mhm.
users liked it. So more Google users liked it than the critics, and that makes sense to me. Again, I feel like it was kind of like I would say it's a run of the mill horror movie in that there was nothing super special, but nothing super terrible about it either. So to me, it was
Mm-mm.
just kind of like a middle of the road type of viewing. I wouldn't not recommend it, but I wouldn't go out of my way to say, okay, you got to watch this.
Right. I mean, I think what helps the movie along is the cast. Again, this is another cast that was picked, really well, in my opinion. I mean, Rebecca De Mornay plays the mother, and she's well known
Right.
for playing, in Risky Business. Jamie King, she's known for actually appearing in the 2009 My Bloody Valentine, which we
Yeah, I
watched
I read
the
that.
80s. She also appeared in Sin City. She is the wife who owns the house, the current owner of the house. Deborah Ann Wall, if that's how I'm pronouncing it correctly, she's known for being in True Blood. She plays Lydia, who's the daughter. Um, Sean Ashmore, he's known for playing in X-Men in a variety of things. All of these actors are still currently working too, just as a side note. But Sean Ashmore plays George. He's the doctor, and he's also a friend of the couple. Um, and just for you, because you like Animorphs, don't you? He
Yeah, yeah.
actually played in the TV series Animorphs
I
in the
remember him
90s.
from that. I did recognize him from
Um,
that.
and then also, I thought this was pretty interesting. He has an identical twin who is also an actor whose name is Aaron, I think, and he played Jimmy Olsen on Smallville. So I thought that was kind of
Really?
interesting. Yes. But yeah, I mean, I think the cast really did help. And like I said, in the, setting up what was going on, seeing how the people interacted, all the friends interacted in the beginning kind of set it up, but I did think it just got kind of long. And I don't know if it was because they just wanted to drag out the different things they were going to do to, kind of pair in the people. Okay, if you do this, then I'll let this happen, kind
Right.
of thing. And that's what it kind of reminded me of the Saw movies. But I do have some fast facts if we have time.
Yeah.
The one thing I wanted to say is Jamie King, who plays Beth, actually fractured her tailbone
Yeah.
on the 3rd day on the set. And I can see that happening because it was a very physical movie. There was a
Yes.
lot of scenes in there, and I know that they do tend to have stunt doubles and stuff like that, but even I would think minor stuff, just being thrown around or having to fall a certain way. They were, down in the basement, so having to go up and down stairs. I could see possibly, injuries happening. Another little tidbit is during one of the scenes where they had guns, um, they actually got stopped by policemen and they held them at gunpoint because they thought they were actual bank robbers. So I thought that was pretty fascinating. And then they all worked it out and they had a little good laugh afterwards. But could you imagine you're
Wow.
like trying to film, a scene and you get pulled over by these cops and they're like pointing real guns at you,
Oh my
not the fake
God.
ones you have, but real ones. And then finally, this film is actually and was inspired by a real crime that took place in Wichita, Kansas. And it
Wow.
was a home invasion. Brothers came in and into a house and found a woman, her boyfriend, and some friends. And they terrorized all of them. Unfortunately, there was rape involved.
Oh
And there
no.
was actually only one person that survived it. But it was
Wow.
inspired by a real crime that had happened. And just another side note, there is a Mother's Day that was made years ago. This is not like a remake of that. From
Right.
what I've read, there's similarities in some ways, like the mother is sadistic and all that kind of stuff, but the premise is very different. And I'm so glad we didn't watch that movie because there were scenes in there I don't think you and I would have been comfortable with
Oh
watching.
geez.
Yeah, just to let you know, because when I was doing some research on it, I happened to come across that information. But I mean, I would recommend if, because it's horror, but it's also got that thriller vibe about it too.
Right. Yes, exactly. I was going to say that to me, it even felt more like a thriller than a horror movie,
Hmm.
personally. But again,
Hmm.
I liked it. I would say that the mom was my favorite character. I think she was so eerie. She was definitely like a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Yes.
I thought she was so well cast. Like, that was a great, great, great casting because she just embodied like creepiness to where she seems nice on the surface, but you could see something like behind her eyes that's like something more, something villainous. And
Hmm.
I like that. But part of the reason why I can't give it a higher rating than 3 is because, like I said, it dragged on so long and it was like the violence started to become unbelievable because it
Right.
dragged on so long. So it's like, okay, come on, they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that. Like, I can't even, like, some of even like the torturing was a little like unbelievable the way it
Hmm.
went down. And at the end, there's just so much like physical violence going on that some of it's not believable that the character just sits up like, okay, I'm gonna keep going, you know.
Right, exactly. But there also too, and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but there is a reason why she is the way she is. And the reason why she is with her kids the way she is, she's got a backstory, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But the range, I think with Rebecca De Mornay being in the role, just her range from being able to be that sweet, understanding woman, and then it's just she can, click to being ruthless and brutal, same woman, just whatever
Yeah.
triggers her is, I mean, it's going to be bad for you, for sure. Or if you do anything to her children.
Oh god, yeah. She'll like never let it go.
Right.
So yeah, I will say her backstory is pretty good. I'll say that was a really interesting part of the movie, and
Mhm.
the end's pretty crazy too. That was cool. So no spoilers, but I would say yeah, give it a watch. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like, would I put it first on a priority list of like holiday movies? No. But if you're looking for other thematic things, then yeah, give it a chance.
And make sure that you watch the 2010 version. Do not watch the one that's previous
Yeah,
because it
because it
is
is
not
hard
the
to
same
find.
movie.
It's hard to find the version because if you IMDb it, all kinds of different ones come up, like
Mhm.
Mother's Day, like all kinds of different confusing things come up. But yes, 2010 is the one that you want to go for. So that's the one we watched, and yeah, overall pretty decent time. And
Mhm.
we're going to talk about Father's Day in our last video, in our wrap up video, because we did watch a Father's Day themed movie, but we won't get there yet. We'll talk about Stepfather and Stepfather 2 next time. So that's something to look forward to. That's kind of almost similar to Mother's Day as a holiday, obviously. But
Mhm.
next, the next holiday on our list that we are talking about today is a movie Kat watched, a movie representing Memorial Day, and it was called Memorial Day.
Okay, this was directed by Christopher Ellender, and I'm just going to preface this by saying the scariest thing about this movie is the movie poster.
That's not saying a lot. That's not good.
No, I mean, the whole time I was watching the movie, I kept thinking this seems like a student film. It didn't, I was just like so amazed that one, I got the DVD through Netflix and the poster looked so professional. I was just like, wow, whatever. But then the whole time I'm like, this just doesn't seem, it seems like somebody shot it on a camcorder. It was just,
Oh my
I don't know.
gosh.
So I did my research and I found out that yes, it was produced as a student film.
Oh
It took
gosh.
12 days. It took 12 days to shoot this in Tallahassee, Florida in 1998. Okay. Memorial Day, there is another Memorial Day. So if you do decide to watch the movie, make sure that, because also on IMDb, they have, no, let me take that back. It's not IMDb. I think it's Rotten Tomatoes. They have the wrong synopsis.
Oh.
They have this movie poster, but the synopsis for the other Memorial Day, which is more like an action flick.
Oh wow.
So just to let you know that, 2.8 out of 10 was what
Yee.
IMDb gave.
That's pretty
Rotten
low.
Tomatoes didn't have anything because it's not even the correct movie. It's basically reminded me of Friday the 13th. That's basically what it reminded me of. The premise is a girl and her friends had gone to a lake one summer. Her brother drowns and, she can never kind of get over it. Well, they decided to go, years have passed. They decided to go back to the lake on Memorial Day. That's when it first happened, when the brother drowned. And lo and behold, somebody starts killing people, picking them
Oh.
off here and there, and till it gets to the end. The ending is weird, and I don't know. I mean, it just kind of reminded me of Friday the 13th, the premise for that,
It does.
and it really does. And it was just kind of strange, like the killer was coming, how the killer was dressed, and then who you find out is the killer, and then it's just very odd, very, very odd. So believe it or not, though, I ended up giving it 1.5 stars just because kudos to them for wanting to for this being a student film, I guess, and doing the best they could with what they worked with. I don't
I
know.
mean, you got
Maybe
to
I'm
start
giving it too high of
somewhere.
a, yeah, I mean, maybe
Yeah.
I'm giving it too high of a rating, but um I don't know. It was, believe me, I liked it a lot better than Rotten Tail, a lot better than Leprechaun in the Hood. So anyway,
So in
like I
that
said,
way, the students got an A because they beat, like, it's not hard to beat those movies, but hey, at least they did it, even as a
yeah,
student film.
yeah.
So that's saying
So,
something. It's hard to beat like actual movies that have like budgets, but they did it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think I'm gonna check out the movie, but I'm glad you did so you could tell us about it.
Okay. So our last one to
Last
talk
one for
about.
this video, because we've got more to come, like I teased earlier, but the last one is celebrating in honor of July 4th. It's called The Evil in Us, and it was released in 2006. The premise is, while on a 4th of July holiday, 6 best friends fall victim to the insidious plan of a mysterious organization when they are unknowingly transformed into bloodthirsty cannibals. So yeah, a cannibal movie. I gotta say, I was kind of disappointed with this. I thought it could have been a lot better. And I have seen some criticisms about, oh, it's too anti-drug of a message. It's like too in your face about anti-drugs. It's kind of like that's the hidden message. But
Mhm.
again, it was okay. I mean, there was some cool makeup in the movie. Some cool bloody stuff, but I just thought like it kind of was over the top a little bit in terms of the believability. Sometimes I don't mind suspending my disbelief because there's a lot of horror movies that, just seem like you can't believe that it's going to happen. But sometimes some movies pull it off to where you don't even think about that it isn't plausible. Whereas others, you're like, I don't really buy into it. And this one is where it was a plausible enough idea, people
Mhm.
kind of being affected by substances to where they start to like kind of get uber violent and almost like crave tearing somebody else apart, not necessarily just eating them, but like being violent
Mhm.
essentially, which
Mhm.
could include eating their flesh, etc. That's where the cannibalism comes in. But it was believable enough. It's just that something about it didn't translate for me. It was okay, but the tagline, by the way, worst trip ever. And that could be taken two ways, drug wise, I guess, or, a literal 4th of July trip. Terrible
Right,
trip for sure.
right. I mean, I I don't know how I felt about. I was kind of like it was kind of like it just kind of drug along. I was almost
Yeah.
wanting it just to be over with because um and then I think they were also trying to make the cannibal, like when they go become cannibals, because what happens is you're a cannibal, but then once your drug wears off, you go back to normal. And then you realize that you've either eaten people, well, or you might not have survived.
Yeah.
But I want to say they almost kind of made the cannibals react in the same way like the zombies were kind of like in 28 Days Later, which they're not really, I guess, classified zombies. They're just people who are like in a rage,
Yeah.
but they, end up ripping, people up. I mean, I don't know, but um I wasn't familiar with any of the actors or the director who did this. I think I felt like the movie took a while to get scary, and then it picked up momentum. All hell breaks loose in that one little section, and then it kind of like petered out, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So that's how I felt about it. I thought it was about 40 minutes before any real action took place. And then again, this one also seemed like it had like different stories going on.
Yeah.
You had the beginning part, and then you have this detective, and then you also have, which was kind of connected a little bit to one of the guys that happens to be in this group of friends. And
Right.
he's basically the one that was responsible for bringing this drug, into their camp, basically. Was he responsible also for giving that drug to what happened to the people in the beginning? That's really kind of unclear. I mean, that's really the only connection. And then you've got the whole deal going with the government lab. It's like, what is the deal with that? Like, I kept asking myself, what is the purpose? I mean, the man and the woman, the man is a senator. I got that part, but like the man and the woman, they're like all happy and like seem so satisfied that they're watching people in these, rooms tear each other up because they've taken this drug. And then when the people realize that they've killed their loved one, then they're remorseful, and then they decide to gas the people.
Yeah.
Like, so
Well,
I didn't understand.
it was obviously like an underlying political message, because then afterwards you see a little bit of that senator who was responsible for testing like the drug. He goes on to run for president, and then he blames the outbreak on the current president. So essentially it's like he manufactured a problem so that there'd be a big problem under a different president, so that he could run and be like, see what this guy's doing, see how the
Mhm,
country's running under the. So there was definitely like a political message undertone, and I think that's why people actually disliked the movie, because
mhm.
it was just like too kind of boring of a secondary plot line. It wasn't even very well done, and it was kind of just tossed in like, okay, I want to be political, let's like make a movie about cannibals. I don't know, it was kind of like all over the place. I didn't
Well,
get the
that's what I'm saying. When you're
guts.
first introduced to the government people, you're just like, what the heck is going on? Like, you don't even see them distributing anything. Like, how
Right.
did they get it? Like, how is it possible, that it was given? And I don't know, it just, like I said, it drug on. The main stuff happens. That part was cool when they, turned into the actual cannibals. I'll give them
Yeah.
credit for that. But then it just kind of peters out. So, and I wasn't satisfied really with the ending,
Me neither.
so I gave it 2 stars. I mean, I gave it 2 stars. I mean, because I did like the cannibal stuff.
I
I mean,
did think
that's weird to say, but
I think that's a fair rating. I mean, I understand what you mean. Like the cannibal stuff, it was kind of neat. Like it was well done. But
yes.
I will say, like, I did think it was a little too zombie-ish at parts, because like, I mean, he was definitely in a rage. Like one of the characters just looked so cartoonish. Like the effects were just like way cartoonish. Like he was, not that the violence, it was just like his face. Like he looked like a zombie instead of a cannibal,
Well,
instead of
and
like a
that was
person.
that's one of the things that when you look at different reviews of this movie, you'll see them throwing around that the zombie term loosely.
Yeah.
But a zombie isn't going to go back to being a normal person and then be
Right.
remorseful because they ate people.
Yeah, and they're dead, essentially, technically. Like,
you
their
know?
organs don't function technically
Right.
either.
And these people don't die once they get off of
Exactly.
their bad trip, unless, they succumb to being eaten to death,
Right.
or whatever. So I do think it's sort of like, did you want it to be a cannibal movie or did you want it to be a zombie movie? But really and truly, I agree. They made them look more like zombies instead of just because like cannibals, like a real cannibal doesn't transform.
And that's the scary part, is a real cannibal is a human destroying another human with, like, and the scariest part of that is that they look just like you.
Right. Hannibal Lecter, for example.
Yes, like that's creepy. Like, can you even imagine? And he eats like other people. It's like kind of almost he's got like this calm nature. And that's even creepier than these people freaking out in a rage, in my opinion.
Mhm,
To me, the
mhm.
creepier cannibal is better, and just, I think, more well executed than like a raging cannibal.
Right. Like I could understand, like, how when the people were having the drug and how they would envision how people look to them, which was like that hallucination thing.
Yeah.
I could get that aspect of it, but they themselves would still look like a normal person. It's almost
Right.
like you just having a hallucination, but that's the part I'm just like, it just doesn't make sense for them to turn into the zombie like creature. It's like you have to decide
Yeah.
zombie, cannibal.
Yeah, they're like walking the line in between, which I don't like. It's like you said, just
Mhm.
decide. And it's funny that you mentioned the length as well, because I told Paul, because he watched this one with me too. I said pause it for a second, and it was like 30 minutes in. I was like, I want to make a mental note of how long it's been, and nothing's happened. He's like, well, there was a
Mhm.
little bit at the beginning. I'm like, it was just bodies, really, at
Well,
the
yeah, because you
beginning.
didn't get to see anything. I mean, you
Yeah.
really don't even know what happens until the detective visits the girl in the hospital and when he can actually talk to her, and then you realize what had happened at that party that they
Yeah.
were, at in the room or whatever.
Even Paul was
But
getting confused. He was like, wait a minute, how is that girl in the hospital? Is she one of the friends? Is this a flashback or a flash forward? So he was thinking that almost like the girl in the hospital was one of the friends. He was getting confused because it was
well, she
jumping
was
around.
actually one of their friends.
Well, she was, but she wasn't like in the group at the
Right,
July
exactly.
4th
She
thing.
was she was in the little party they had at the room in the
Right.
apartment, and she survived. But then you don't really realize much of anything. I mean, it takes so long to get there, and then you've got this detective trying to make all these connections or whatever. And I don't know. I just I think it could have been the plot and all that could have been a little bit better,
Like a
you
little
know.
tighter, a little
Yeah.
more concentrated, and also like the impactful parts, the scary parts could have been longer. It feels like we
Mhm.
wait so long to get there, and then like the cannibal stuff's over really quick.
Yes, yes.
So
Yeah, and I mean, they did try to put some red herrings in there, here and there. I mean, when you meet the local people, you don't know if they're up to something,
yeah,
it's like, because that was kind of like the way they were acting. I'm almost like, are they the cannibals? I mean, I
yeah,
was
I
just
thought that
thinking that kind
too.
of thing. But I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say, I mean, if you don't have anything better to watch, give it a whirl.
Yeah, why not give it a whirl, as Kevin McAllister says in Home Alone 2. I'll give it a whirl. So just ratings real quick. It's a 4.9 on IMDb, out of 10, a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is kind of high. That's surprising to me. And a 73% of Google users like it. So
Hmm.
that's also surprisingly high to me,
Hmm.
considering some of the comparisons to some of the other movies that I thought were a little better. But overall, like you said, why not give it a whirl? It's not so bad. It's just not my favorite, and I think it could have been better overall. But
Hmm.
you know, I'm glad I watched it, because there's not a lot of July 4th thematic movies out there. So we had to watch something.
Exactly.
Yeah. So overall, a successful second part to our marathon. We're almost done. We've got a few days left in April right now. And then at the end of the month, Kat and I will have our final chat, which basically we're not going to do a big old review of every movie like we've been doing these last few parts, but we're
Hmm.
going to kind of give an overall wrap up where we kind of give our main thoughts about everything we watched. And also, We'll give a little bit of, if we've read anything thematic, we'll talk about that quickly. If we've eaten anything thematic or drank anything thematic to go with the marathon, any holiday represented on the marathon, we'll talk about that. And also a few of the movies we've left out, such as Groundhog, Stepfather 1 and 2, as I teased earlier, that will be talked about. And also the movie Severance we'll be talking about. Again, those will be just mentioned very, very quickly, but we'll also rank some other movies, like rank our favorites from the whole marathon, every movie we watched for this marathon, and we'll give our least favorite, which I think you guys might guess which one will be our least favorite. But hey, we'll still talk about it in the final chat, regardless of if you might guess what it is. Why not talk about boners some more? I mean, it's a good thing YouTube doesn't censor that or anything, like, because then we'd be like totally censored, because we've said that word so much in this chat. It's ridiculous.
I know.
Here I go again. But anyway, I've had so much fun doing this chat with you, Kat. Thanks so much. Again, fun things on the horizon. Look out, guys, for that next upcoming chat where we wrap everything up. Also look out, because we'll be doing the zombie marathon, as we talked about, for Zombie Appreciation Month in May, and that'll be a lot of fun. 6 movies. I can't wait. We'll tease that more in our next video, but I just wanted to let you guys know it's coming up on the horizon. Slow zombies, fast zombies. We'll have it all. It'll be so exciting. I'm very pumped up about it. Funnily enough, who would have thought, because I'm not a big zombie person, but overall, can't wait to get there. But still excited to be wrapping up this holiday horror marathon, because it was fun. It was a different take on, horror movies, because there's not a lot of holiday themed ones out there that aren't Christmas or Halloween. So overall, Kat, what do you think about this grouping that we talked about today? What are your final thoughts?
My final thoughts, I think overall, compared to our first one, the movies in this section weren't as appealing, I think, as the first group that we watched. But there were some gems, like April Fool's Day, for sure. And I mean, I'm glad that we watched them. It was neat trying to figure out what kind of movies we could watch that were related to these holidays. So overall, I'm pleased with, what we've chosen, and look forward to maybe watching some more holiday, horror movies in the future.
Me too. And I got to say, I agree with you. It's so hard to beat that first grouping, because we started off so strong. Movies like Terror Train, My Bloody Valentine, even the original Leprechaun, which I freaking loved. I thought it was so much fun. It's hard to kind of beat that grouping. But like you said, April Fool's Day was a nice gem. Me, I love Dead Snow. I wish you would have been able to rewatch it, but maybe next time. And then Night of the Lepus. To me, that was a gem. A bad, like unpolished, wonderful gem. I loved it so bad, so wonderful at the same time. So anyway, there was some good stuff hidden in there this time. So overall, thanks for doing this with me again, Kat. You're so much fun. And thanks to you guys who are watching right now. We appreciate it so much. If you could leave a like, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you check out the description below to find Kat's blog link, and please follow her blog, follow my blog, because we also blog about our marathons a lot of times. So please check out the YouTube description to find all those links. And thanks for spending this bloody good time with us. There'll be more and more and more, tons more holiday horror movie discussion to come in our next chat. But overall, there'll be lots of horror in general to come, because me and Kat are going to continue on with these horror marathons. So much to look forward to. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.